And welcome to this episode of Season 3 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, and often guests, as today with Freddie Quek, talk about digital topics, including the world of online communications and digital inclusion, in a show which was the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late John Popham. And in traditional fashion, we start with the weather. So, Sweyn, how are you? How's the weather where you are this week?
I'm very good, thank you. And the weather is, well, it's uncharacteristically calm for Orkney here where I am. But it's a bit grey. It's neither one thing nor the other.
And Freddie, how are you? Where are you? And how's the weather there?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I live in Oxford. The weather is grey. At least it's not raining, so I'm happy.
Okay, that's good. It's good to know. And here in Birmingham, also grey, so it's a national epidemic of greyness. But it's I've managed to get out. It was raining earlier. There was rain on the ground, but I didn't get wet while I was out, so that was nice to have a little walk. So, Freddie, we're delighted that you can join us today. And we've got a few kind of regular slots that we go through. So if you bear with us, we'll go through those. And please feel free to comment as we go along. But we are delighted to have you. And we're looking forward to hearing about the great things that you've been doing and seeing your magnificent slide, which we're very enthusiastic about. So we haven't had many shows in February, so we're kind of going backwards and forwards on the dates. We noticed in the 13th of February was National Clean Out Your Computer Day. And this was seemed like a wonderful thing to kind of remind people that they can do. It's something we've all had trouble with in the past, where we haven't cleaned out our computer and it kind of slows things down a bit. So there's a great list of how to observe National Clean Out Your Computer Day, a great list of tips. The first one being break it off with your exes, pun on the exes, EXES, that is, your upstate installation exe files, that is. It recommends you use the disk utility tool for Macs or disk cleanup for Windows to see what's taking up space on your hard drive, then deleting junk from your downloads, temporary internet files, and old programs you don't use. So that sounds wonderful and something I'll be doing soon. Second thing is to back it up. Hopefully you don't wait for this day to back up your data. Reminder to back up your data on an external hard drive or in the cloud, just to preserve your data, make sure it doesn't get lost if anything happens to your computer. And the final tip there was vaccinating against malware. And again, we've all had this issue in the past. It recommends doing a full scan with your antivirus software on National Clean Up Your Computer Day, but also cleaning out any suspicious messages in your inbox and setting filters to catch spam messages more effectively. So some great tips there that we can all benefit from. And then coming forward again, the 13th to the 17th of February was Love Data Week. And as we're all big data geeks on this show, we want to keep this one in. The goal being celebrating data and raising global awareness about the importance of data science and management. And stakeholders use that day as an opportunity to convene a community of data scientists and discuss contemporary issues affecting data management, sharing, privacy, preservation, reuse, and delivery. And it listed 5 interesting facts on that page that Sweyn's scrolling through about data science. Interestingly, the first one is one that I discussed with Duncan Ross from DataKind many years ago at a data dive that they were running. And that is that 91% of the data used in data science and analytics is composed of text data, not numbers. So it's good to see a reminder of that. And that's particularly true for the voluntary sector, which I do most of my work in.
And is that Duncan Ross from my organization that I know?
Yes, it is as well. Yeah. Yeah, we get around. And yeah, that's from Times Higher Ed. So hello, Duncan, if you're listening or watching. Second tip was to spend more time on data cleaning. And we've all been at events where the data scientists are, say the data isn't, they don't want to share it because it's not clean. Well, sometimes other people want the data, no matter what state it's in. But actually, data scientists spend 20% of their time on data analysis and 80% performing data searches, organization, and cleaning. So we feel sad for data scientists, but we do like to have the data. Thirdly, data scientists prefer Python. Now, I didn't know that. It was interesting to me to hear that. It's something I've learned briefly when I was doing the data journalism course at BCU. Not a big fan, but because I don't understand it that much, but perhaps others here understand it better than I do. Anybody got a preference for Python?
Well, Python is one of the most popular, if not the most popular programming language, which is why I think it's suitable for anybody who wants to get into doing something complicated, right?
Yeah. So we recommend it, but I need to learn more about it to be able to recommend it even more. Fourthly, of these tips, only tiny bits of data are analyzed, which was a surprise. Only about 0.5% it said of all forms of data we create are ever analyzed and used. So that's a lot of data to go through to get to that, but we still want it. And fifthly, loss due to low-grade data. Apparently, low-grade data costs organizations worldwide about a loss of $15 million each year, with US businesses alone losing $600 billion every year due to poor data quality. So we need to improve on that. And finally, for the dates, 27th of February today is National Pokemon Day. Again, not something I ever really spent much time on, but very popular. And some facts about Pokemon. Apparently the name, which I only discovered today, is a contraction of the Japanese brand Poketa Monsuta, or Pocket Monsters. It was going to be called something else, but they decided to go with this because there was a copyright issue. Apparently there's a whole lot where that came from. There's currently more than 800 species of the fictional collectible Pokemon monsters. They're so beloved, they're even appeared as part of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. They have a creepy crawly inspiration. The creator, Satoshi Tajiri, hunted bugs as a kid and traded them with friends, which was a clear inspiration for Pokemon. And the first ever Pokemon was Rhydon, the first Pokemon ever to be created. So for those Pokemon aficionados out there, have a happy National Pokemon Day, and we hope you have lots of joy with those. Sweyn, Freddie, are you Pokemon people?
Not really. The only thing I did do briefly was when Pokemon Live came out, where you kind of augmented reality, where you can go around catching Pokemon. I looked into that briefly because lots of kids that I knew were using it, and I was wondering what on earth it was. So I thought
no.
It was quite good fun.
No, not me.
No. Okay. Well, there's plenty of other people out there who enjoy it, so good luck to them. Okay, on to events then. A couple of events we picked up. On the 14th, starting on the 14th of February, is a free digital skills workshop for beginners, which we're always keen to encourage. They're running every Tuesday except school holidays, so the whole list and the link will be on the YouTube, page when we after the show. So please, for those who are beginning digital skills or want to help others with beginning, the whole list is there. Introduction to online shopping using a laptop and keyboard, introduction to social media, online banking, job hunting, saving money, online safety, fraud and scams, and an introduction to Microsoft Office. So it sounds like a really useful list of introductory skills for lots of people, because we know lots of people still aren't as familiar with being online as would benefit them, as we know they would have better lives if they were online. And last but not least is the launch of Tech for Good Scotland, and this is coming from our good friend Ross McCullough at Third Sector Lab. And the speakers for Tech for Good Scotland on Thursday, which is their first ever event, are Victoria Heaney, who's the lead project owner at Scottish Government Scottish Government digital delivery of UK response work. And secondly, John Fitzgerald, who's the digital evolution manager at SCVO, and he's talking about making brilliant digital the next normal. And this group is for anyone working in the third sector using digital data and design to do good stuff, for funders supporting organizations to use technology better, public sector folks working in policy, funding and delivery, activists using digital to engage with communities and bring about change, and professionals working in businesses and startups passionate about tech for good. And this is part of the UK and Ireland Tech for Good Organisers Network. Ross is a member, as am I, so can highly recommend that. As far as I know, tickets are sold out, but they may get some returns, so it's worth probably seeing if there's a waiting list. But I know that if Ross is helping to organise it, it's going to be brilliant. So brilliant. Okay, and so we come to our very special guest today, Freddie Quek. Freddie is the Chief Technology Officer at Times Higher Education and a community board member for the Digital Poverty Alliance. He's responsible for data-driven products and solutions such as the World Universities Rankings and the SDG Impact Dashboard. which provides insights into universities' impact in delivering the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. He is a disruptive, networked and agile leader who thrives in challenging environments and focuses on achieving and celebrating team successes. He's highly experienced and multiple award-winning global technology leader who's worked in Singapore, US and UK across automotive, higher education, publishing, loyalty, insurance, travel and financial services industries. More recently, Freddie is a BCS Fellow, British Computer Society Fellow, and judge for the UK IT Industry Awards. He started the Joining the Dots initiative to address digital inclusion, becoming special advisor and community board member of the Digital Poverty Alliance, which represents 13 UK tech leaders communities, and he's chair of the BCS Digital Divide Specialist Group. He also co-founded Tech League Ukraine to help displaced Ukrainian tech professionals, which has now joined forces with Blue Hope AI in supporting all displaced refugees, regardless of conflict or country. Freddie, we're absolutely delighted to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Just to clarify, I have been a BCS member for more than 3 decades. So, you know, I've been, and part of that is because it helped me to come to the UK and get my education and therefore my career in tech. So delighted with what the BCS has done for me in my early career.
We like it very much. There's a lot of great members and stories are coming out of it. So yes, we're very pleased to hear that. Freddie, would you like to tell us about your early how you got involved in technology? What's your early career look like? You know, as a young man.
In those days, I came from Singapore, and I remember my uncle. You know, we went to church, came back to my grandma's place, and you know, kids. There are so many of us cousins, and we just need to burn our energy, right? So you have all kinds of games. You got playing the carrom board. We play chess. We play musical instruments. But then one day he bought a computer, a Radio Shack computer on cassette tapes, and I was very curious. And then of course, what I started doing was to play those cassette tapes. One of them was a very basic ASCII text type game. So what I did was I managed to somehow change it into like a Space Invader type game, changing the way it looked. So that's how it intrigued me. And then I want to do more. But in Singapore in those days, it was not easy to go and do a computer course at university because there was only one university. There was only one course, and it's almost impossible to get in there. And this is why the BCS, has been around for a long time. It gave me the opportunity to do a higher education diploma, and that allowed me to come to the UK and then do my degree.
Brilliant. So, so you were into technology from quite a young age then?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And how did your career progress then? What kind of circles did you move in?
So whilst I was studying, at that time I was studying for my master's at London School of Economics. I was working at McDonald's as a part-time job, just like what you would do as a student. And I started applying for a job for the summer when I graduate. And very interestingly enough, this company asked me to go for an interview. And I thought, okay, yeah, sure. And then they say, what do you think of doing, taking on this job now instead of working at McDonald's? For me, it was a no-brainer. So I was very delighted that I have an opportunity to start working for a publishing company where in those days there were no computers or internet, right? So I was there from the beginning. I started seeing how, the floppy drive turns into CD-ROMs, turns into the internet, and I was there all the way through. And this is how my career has started, from being in an industry where it was the first to be disrupted to seeing how technology has such a great impact on the industry almost overnight. And then this is why, for a large part of my career, it has been in that one specific industry, seeing it transform from print to digital to CD-ROM, internet, and all the good things that technology offers.
Brilliant. And kind of what have you seen kind of start and fail in that time? Have you seen things that people thought would be brilliant and then didn't take off?
Yeah, and one I think it's still true today, right? Is that in those early days when the opportunity for technology to transform how you do things was there, I don't think people get it. So I remember the early days, all we wanted to do was, how can we replicate the print book in the digital world, right? So make everything look like a book, behave like a book. And we were completely missing the point that actually you now have different ways of engaging your audience, different ways of using the content. So that for me is one of the biggest learning that I've come across in my career, and then, you know, for my organizations, and this is something that I want to keep encouraging people. You know, do not think of the world as you know of today, because the power of technology to completely transform is there. We just got to be more curious. We got to be more adventurous rather than just assume stuff.
Absolutely. So you've as I read out, you've kind of had several careers in several industries. What brought you from one industry to another? What was your path?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I've been in one industry for a long time, you know, I think 3 decades. And you know, in the early days, it was really fun because I was young, I was curious, there was no fear. You had the opportunity to learn and just try things out. No such thing as the wrong answer because nobody knew the answer anyway. Right, so you know, things such as, you know, NoSQL technologies that we take it for granted. In those days, there was only relational database technologies like Oracle and Sybase. And I remember even when I started my career, database was still a new thing. So to see that change from one to the other was really interesting. But as I get towards another sort of level of using technology, you realize that publishing is very well placed to do more with even more newer technology. So that was the time when AI, and by the way, AI and machine learning has been around for a long time. It's only about finding the right use case for it. And if you think about it, right, the media industry is well placed. Why? Because they have a lot of content. Sure, they have a lot of data, but a lot of that content and data is well structured or semi-structured. They have a lot of metadata. They have curated data. They have a lot of things going for them. So, you know, just when it got to a point where it could be even more interesting, perhaps I got a little bit frustrated that the industry as a whole, they are quite a conservative industry, right? Why change when everything is going so well? So I decided to, and it's not easy, right? To be brave, to leave behind something that you know for a long time, to try something else. And that's why I got out, and one of the first organizations I worked with was fantastic in the sense that I had a chance to learn about 4 different industry sectors: loyalty, travel, insurance, financial service, all in one, right? So my responsibility was to bring together all the engineering resources from different businesses into one place and helping them to figure out which bits you need to support them specifically, whereas which bits should be a common asset for the organization, right? So that is how I started there. And I'll tell you this, now I understand why people say that, especially in the tech industry, especially when you're a tech leader, your sort of, you know, life cycle being an organization is probably around 3 years. And that is true. And why? Is because technology changes way too quickly. And I've learned so much in the last 8 years being in so many different industries than being in one. Yeah, so I would encourage anybody, I know it's scary, but be brave, because it will continue to evolve, and it would probably evolve much quicker than we can cope. But the way to be able to deal with it is by being in it rather than just staying away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we try to encourage, but also giving people the option, if they're not connected, that there are alternatives, you know, because so many, we had a piece on recently about how HUK has did an FOI for councils in London who said that if people weren't online, they could have an alternative way of accessing a service, and they found actually a lot of them are. That's not so. So we need to keep mindful of that. Freddie, I was interested in the loyalty piece of work that you did. Can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, so if you think about many companies these days, especially in the retail sector, right? What is the way to attract your customers to keep coming back to you? This is why, you know, you're talking about loyalty programs, like for example, the airlines, they all have loyalty programs. So that is what I meant. Yeah, that is the sector that one of the companies I work for was a specialist in that area.
Okay, and I mean that have they developed a lot over the last number of years, and how do they manage during COVID, do you think?
I think COVID was tough, but I have seen that they have continued to grow from strength to strength. They have even come up with a specific product proposition for the market, right? So for example, they were dealing with big brands like IKEA, Dell, Cathay Pacific, all the big, right? They all need a solution. Yeah, so delighted to, of course, COVID was difficult for everybody because you have to almost pause, or finding a different way of doing business. But I think it's all coming back with a vengeance, right?
Absolutely. So, Freddie, we're very, very interested to see the diagram that we talked about earlier. And we also want to hear more about the PCS Digital Divide Specialist Group. So if you'd like to share the diagram now, and then we can chat about the group as well. I think it's well worth seeing.
And you mentioned about the BCS Digital Divide Specialist Group. Just so you know, we had a webinar last Thursday. And that was a special one because it was the first anniversary of the existence of the specialist group. So, and we had all our committee members to speak at the event, but more important, not just about the role in the committee, but about the fact that each and every one of the members, they are championing something that they are passionate about in terms of solving or doing something about addressing the digital inclusion.
I think just to say that I think on this live stream through YouTube, there's quite a lot of text in this screen, but it might, if you're interested, then I'd encourage you to follow the link which is on the description of the YouTube program, and also or search for #jointhedots dashboard, and you'll find it that way. Sorry, Freddie, carry on.
Yeah, and just to provide some context for this diagram, I know it may look complicated. But I think this is why a diagram is important to help people to understand the complexity. When we talk about, I remember when I first got to know about this space or being curious about this space, and maybe if I can start there, probably 3 Septembers ago, I was approached by a tech leader saying, Freddie, can we see whether we can help 3 schools in the Northeast, one of the most deprived part of the UK, to help their school children get some, devices to get an online education. And it sounds like such a no-brainer for anybody to want to help. And we say, okay, why don't we do a social media campaign and see how we can solve that problem? And despite all the effort, right, there's a number of us involved, and we even have to do this, YouTube thing that, definitely many of us are not very comfortable with, right? Speaking to a video and telling people why we need to do this. But because of that cause, many of us did. And despite all the effort, we didn't raise enough to provide the 150 devices, right? And the interesting thing was, but if the social media response, which was fantastic, by the way, if everybody who says it's a great idea donated £10, we would have solved that problem. But we didn't. And it makes me and many of my peers to think about, why are we not able to solve a simple problem, if it's a simple problem? And the more I found, the more curious I became, and the more astounded I was. So, for example, I started talking to one and then few, and it became 60 leaders over 3 weeks across 9 different tech organizations. And the reason for that is that I do not know where is a single place I can go to talk to my peers. And by the way, in my spare time, I'm a researcher, so I was already, on that road to find my tribe. Where do I find them? And because of this, it just gives me that opportunity to ask simple questions. Oh, by the way, this topic, what is this? Why is this? And how do we solve this? And what was really interesting was that after that 3-week exercise, I've now got some data, right? This is soft qualitative data from my peers. And it rang loud and clear about a few things that we discovered, right? One is, this topic is more than just about the device, but yet everybody talks about the device, and yet everybody who wants to help to solve this problem, guess what they do? They did like what I did,
devices, yes.
Start another device donation campaign.
Yes.
But it doesn't get you anywhere, right? So I decided to find a way to play back to, first of all, my community, and then I realized that actually, you know what? It's not just me. Many of us in the tech sector, we want to help. Whether we are a leader or just a professional, we are qualified to help, right? Because each and every one of us have the skills to help our neighbors. But the challenge is, even though we have the skills and expertise and everything, it's not easy to offer help, right? I've heard of many stories of leaders where they are parents of children at schools, and they try to offer help to the schools. The school says no. There is a reason why. So there are many things that sort of underpins the complexities. And this diagram here, and thanks to all my peers, and thanks to also I have another slide to show. I'm going to very quickly go to the next slide. And this is by no means it's about tech sector and the tech and community, right? It's also about many others, and very quickly you'll find that everybody is connected somewhere else. And this is how joining the dots came about, because this is not about thinking it is too big a problem that none of us can solve, or this is somebody else's problem to solve. But in fact, actually, each one of us can play a part to solve this problem. And if we join the dots in terms of a joined up thinking and joint up actions, then perhaps we can get there a lot quicker, a lot sooner, a lot more impactful, a lot further than to try and do it on our own. I don't think anyone, not the government, not even the richest individual or the richest tech company, can solve this problem on their own. But I believe that together, like hence, Pauline, this is how you and I are connected. If we work together, if we know what you're doing and you know what somebody else is doing, and we find a way to play to everybody's strengths and find a way to join those dots up, then we stand a chance to solve this problem. And hence, back to this diagram, what we want to do is to get the message out to people to say that, look, if you think about solving digital inclusion, have this bigger picture that it is about joining the dots of many dots, and it's about enabling somebody to be able to participate fully in this digital world. And what does that mean? That means you got to give them a device, but the appropriate device. For a child to an old age pensioner, they may be different. A child may be a tablet, an older person may be a phone. It's not just about giving everybody the same device. But having a device with no data doesn't help. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we're coming across. The Digital Poverty Alliance published their UK evidence review for the first time. There's joined up research there. And one of the great determinants is to call out the fact that we need to treat broadband access as almost like a utility, right? That everybody should have access to, rather than everybody has to solve their problem on their own. So that is just a second dot. Now, if you look at the real world, when you work and you need help because you have some issues with your tech stuff, who do you go to? You have a tech support helpline. Where is the equivalent in the real world? There's no such thing. So we need to also be aware of that. Then this is something, again, I learned from the UK evidence review from the Digital Poverty Alliance, is that motivation and confidence is another factor. You can have all the best tech in the world, but if the individual is not helped in the right way for whatever reasons, it's not going to go anywhere. So we can all relate to maybe our parents, where they do not know what it is, they do not want it, they think they do not want it. But unless you help to educate them, for example, would you not want to talk to your friends, even during COVID, to be able to have a chat? That is how you make that relevant for them, right? So it's about that motivated confidence. Skills, I think that is the obvious one, right? And what is really interesting is that you'll find that and I saw one of your slides earlier on, right? There are so many places to get skills training. In fact, it's too much. How do you know which are the right ones for the right audience? That is the challenge, right? Now, again, in the tech sector, many of us say we want to help to be able to provide mentoring, work placement, support, apprenticeship. But again, how do you do that, right? So, and then cyber safe practices, I think is really key, because if there's one thing that we are all suffering from, and it doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, whether you're young or old, it affects all of us. I experienced that before. I'm sure if you ask anybody else who are even less clued up as IT professionals, they probably have even more of those bad experiences without even knowing it, which is a big challenge, right? And then inclusive design is yet another area. We currently take for granted that all the apps that we design, digital solutions we design, we assume that they are for able-bodied people with some skills. But the reality is that there are many people out there who do not fall into that profile. So we are missing out something there, right? And then the next slot here is about connecting and communicating, which is what I try to do, what I try to encourage everybody to do, because that is the easy thing we can do. If we start from a place of understanding rather than ignorance, it would help us. And last but not least, by the way, every time, this thing continues to grow, right? So it started with 6, and it's now 10. Last but not least is to also show that across the UK, we're beginning to also have much more joined up research data about this landscape. So please, if you are thinking about doing another piece of research, come and talk to the DPA. Don't start on your own independently. Join them up so that we can contribute towards that body of knowledge about this landscape of that we're trying to solve.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant representation, Freddie. Everyone I show it too, loves it, and can relate to it. That's the great thing about it. It's very relatable, very easy to understand. And people in my area in Birmingham, they now want to make their own dashboard with each of these columns for the local area. And I think that's brilliant. I didn't think you'd mind if people wanted to, adapt it for their own local picture.
Thank you. And if I can also call out two things, right? So it's great that we now have a dashboard. This provides a framework for people to think about solving this problem, I think that's a good place to start. But I also want to encourage people to also use this to think about the specific actions that they can take. Some would be tactical, and this is what I've discovered so far. There are many great tactical initiatives out there today. The challenge with those tactical solutions is that they will not last forever, right? Mm-hmm. They will stop at some point, and all this great stuff may disappear. And this is why I encourage everybody to get to know about the Digital Poverty Alliance and join the Digital Poverty Alliance. Why? Because they are taking a different approach. They are taking a very strategic and holistic approach. Right now, for once in the UK, we have somebody that is going to be caring enough about the whole picture, and therefore we should try and join and contribute towards that effort. So in my case, on behalf of the BCS Digital Divide Specialist Group, as well as the 13 tech leaders communities, we're working on two initiatives that I want to share with everybody so that everybody knows, and hopefully they can see that we're not trying to do something that we do not know. We're actually starting from a place that we know a lot about, and hopefully that is our contribution to this really huge, complex topic. Right, one is tech support, right? So you can imagine tech support is what we do, and I'm delighted to share the news that we have two big tech companies involved in this initiative. One is Unisys. Unisys, as you know, has been around for a long time. They provide tech support service to organizations globally and in 37 languages. So, you can't get better than an organization that's got the expertise to know how to do this well and scale this globally. Mm-hmm. Two is ServiceNow, right? So we also have ServiceNow who provides that platform for, managing help desk tickets. So that many companies are using that tool today. So we are delighted that two big companies whose strengths are in those areas, they are willing and able to bring their expertise to help to solve this problem. So if anybody's trying to solve this problem, don't go and build your own platform, right? Let's work with organizations that's already doing that. So that is one example.
Brilliant.
And I also want to acknowledge, there are many, there's a very sort of a core team involved there, and it comes from my peers in a number of different tech companies. So we're talking about Unilever, that's one of the contributors there. We're talking about the DPA, the BCS, as well as the Positive Transformation Group, right? So there's quite a number of organizations involved in helping to get this going. We're starting with a pilot so that we can learn from it and see how we can scale. And just like with the COVID vaccine, you got to start somewhere. You can't give the vaccine to everybody overnight. So we're going to start focusing on older people, disabled people, areas that today nobody has been paying attention to them. So we thought we would start in those places. Make sense, yeah?
Yeah.
And then the other one I want to call out is under inclusive design. So we build solutions based on coming up with digital personas, right? That's what we do. What we're trying to do is to create a national catalog of digital personas. So we're not talking about creating a catalog on our own. We're encouraging everybody whose day job today is to build a solution and they've got personas to contribute towards this national catalog. So therefore, at some point in the future, whoever wants to build a solution and they say they're interested to solve this problem for, let's say, a specific target audience, now we know that actually there are personas defined and therefore they can address those needs. And currently we're in a research phase because we're trying to, by the way, again, there's a number of organizations involved here. We're talking about, again, the DPA, the BCS, AbilityNet, which specializes in disabled people, Lloyds Bank, because every year they publishes the sort of digital index about how well we're doing or not with regards to this space. So you can see, and also Lottie, which is the London organization by the mayor's office or addressing, because all these organizations, they're already doing something. So we want to build on what they've done, contribute to this catalog, and see how we can then add on the other stuff that's missing so that we can then sort of provide a template of the things that people need to consider in the future when they build a persona that they want to help with solving digital inclusion.
Brilliant. And looking across the organizations, you know, you're listed as signposting people too. We've had some of them on the show. Digital Unite and so on. And we could have more actually on the show. Digital Poverty Alliance, we have yourself, we've had Cara Ullman, we've had Paul Russell on the show as well. So yeah, we relate well to this kind of signposting. And I think, as I said, you know, if kind of Birmingham can kind of find its own place to signpost people to locally, but then recognize there's national join the dots to be done. I think they'll be very welcome to that. And I know you're coming to my project launch at the end of March in Birmingham, so people are looking forward to hearing from you again about this sort of work. So you're now showing us the BCS Join the Dots, Digital Divide group, yeah.
So if I can take this opportunity to highlight the fact that this digital inclusion issue is a very complex problem to solve, right? We all know that. And I want to also highlight how some of these major organizations are coming together to solve this. So we want people to know, we want people to come and join us to solve this together rather than separately. And you can see the BCS, the charter body for IT professionals, has been around for a long time. And look at their purpose. It's about making IT good for society, right? So whether you are a BCS member or not, surely we all subscribe to that philosophy, to this purpose, right, as an IT professional. So please remember that that is our responsibility. And this is why I want to appeal to each and every IT professional out there today. We talk about corporate social responsibility. Fine, that is somebody else's problem, but I would like us to focus on personal social responsibility, which is each and every one of us. And if we take that purpose as making IT good for society, then we should do something, right? So that's the BCS one. And I want to make sure that the Digital Divide Specialist Group that I now chair, the purpose is linked to the BCS and linked to the wider context. So what is that link? So our purpose is to leave no one digitally behind. So I think that is a great purpose, right? Because otherwise we're not solving the problem. And we look at the Digital Poverty Alliance, right? Okay, they look at their mission. Their mission is to end digital poverty once and for all by 2030. It's a very ambitious target. But you know what? I welcome that because it's a stake in the ground. And I've been in publishing for, as I said, 30 years, right? And one thing I learned about publishing is that, just like in the media industry, the show must go on, right? Somehow it will always happen. So unless you have a target, it is not real. If you want to make it real, and if you fall short of it, but you do not have, and you have great ambition, I have no problem with people having great ambition and great aspiration. Right? What I have is when people have no targets to aim for, right? So we now have a target, which is provided by the DPA. And I hope that at least the BCS is responding in a very direct way about helping with this. I will encourage everybody else from other organizations to individuals to find your own relevance, to see how you can help to support this. And of course, if you need a framework, join the DPA, join the BCS, will help you to get there.
Absolutely. And so the BCS Digital Divide is celebrating its first year in existence. Is that what you said? Yeah. Yes. And how many members do you have, Freddie?
Yeah, so in the BCS, there are more than 66,000 members. In the Digital Divide Specialist Group, currently we have 71. And my intent, the reason why I'm joining the dots across the BCS and the 13 communities, is that across all those communities, we're talking about at least more than 130,000 members. So just imagine if every one of them all understand and are signposted to the things they need to know, that is a good place to start. And then the second part is that once we are able to be clear about how we can help to solve this problem, I would like to be able to mobilize all the 130,000 IT professionals to do something more specific. So the potential is there, right?
Yes, certainly. And what's the eligibility criteria to join the BCS and the Digital Divide specialist group?
Right. So the Digital Poverty Alliance is really easy. Just go to the website, digitalpovertyalliance.org, and just sign up. It's really easy. For the BCS, of course, you need to be an IT professional. But you know what? Don't worry. If you're experienced IT professionals, please join because there are different levels of membership grades. But if you are somebody new who's trying to start in the IT industry, don't worry because we also have student membership, right? Okay. So it's the whole range. right? And I would encourage everybody to join both, right? And the people were asking me, so why join the BCS, right? For example, and I would say this: if you are a young IT professional, you can't get better than joining a professional body that's going to give you that support, mentorship, guidance along the way. That's great, right? But if you are highly experienced, highly successful in your career, I would also encourage you to join the BCS. Why? Because it's your way of giving back.
Definitely.
Yeah. So please
Absolutely.
consider.
Yeah. Sweyn, is it something that you've been a member of, or are you a member of BCS?
I'm not a member of BCS. I've worked in the local authority sector for quite some time, so there's a kind of parallel organization there.
Oh, okay.
But I'm always interested in what BCS are coming up with, because it's a vast pool of fantastic connections and content and people. So yeah, I definitely echo everything that Freddie says about joining.
Would you say BCS, would either you say BCS is more for private sector tech people, or does it include local authorities?
No, it
includes everybody, yeah. And so long as you're an IT professional and you want a professional body, then that is the professional body for you. If I may also do a shout out for all the other IT communities, because this is the point of joining the dots. Yeah, many of us are part of many communities. I don't want people to think that one community is better than the other, right? Happy for you to start from the community that you're part of. If you are not aware of anyone, reach out to me. I'll more than happy to signpost you to. I can tell you about all the 13 that I know of today, right? But some of them here, Horizon CIO Network, UK IT leaders, charity IT leaders, Hot Topics, CIO Water Cooler, CIO 100, digital leaders, Tech London Advocates, Worshipful Company Information Technologies. There's so many of them. And if you are already a member of one of them, guess what? What is good about this is that we are joining the dots. Therefore, everybody is working together to solve this problem. So you don't have to just, it's like religion, right? You don't have to be giving up your religion in being a Catholic to become somebody else, right? You don't have to.
Yeah. No, I really like that, Freddie, because we certainly on this show subscribe to the the idea that collaboration is the only way that we're going to solve many of the world's problems, certainly digital problems, where we try to share all the information that we have so that other people can benefit from it and join and become part of the solution, which I certainly think you are being. So in the last year of the specialist group, the Digital Divide Specialist Group, what kind of topics have you covered?
When we started, of course, it was a very scary place. Yeah, what have we just unleashed here, right? In terms of making a commitment to do this, but I'm so delighted that with my committee and the support of the BCS and also the DPA, we've done many signposting events and webinars across a range of topics. From dementia to autism, to loneliness, to local initiatives like in Staffordshire. So very broad range, right? To higher education sector. And again, please check out our website. As I mentioned, we've just done our webinar update. So there's a lot of information there about what we've done. Great.
I think people will be keen to follow up on that, because it sounds like, you're bringing together the kind of initiatives that we support very much in this program, and that more people need to know about, and more people are getting more curious about now, and not feeling so stuck in, like, the panic of COVID kind of made people go online, and they might never have been online before. So it kind of was kind of building digital skills and digital knowledge on top of fear, which is never a good basis for starting new stuff. But now I think people are feeling more, they're making choices about being digital and being online. So it's more, it's easier for them to think about and to want to be, to kind of shop, go shopping for what suits them in their lives. Yeah, I mean, I know that BCS also makes its events, some of its events, open to non-members as well. So you don't have to be a member of BCS either to benefit from the work that they do, which is good to know.
Yeah, because what we're trying to do is signposting, and signposting should be free, right? And all we want people to know is come and hear, and therefore you're educated enough to pass on that message.
Yeah.
And if we talk about this year, for example, we kick off the year by focusing on a topic that is at the forefront of everybody's mind. So we started with the first webinar, which by far the most well attended. it's about the cost of living crisis and how technology can help. So there's an example where, you know, we're again contributing from a technology angle about the kinds of technology and platforms and organizations you can go to get some kind of help. And then we have a few more coming up next week, for example, next month. In fact, yeah, next month is a few days time, right? In March, we will be having our next webinar on digital participation for all, a framework of how to start solving that problem. So we have Professor Leela Damodaran. She's very well known in this sector in terms of the research she's been doing for over 20 years. So she's going to be sharing some of the research results that she's covered across so many years of her career, so that we are starting again from a place of understanding rather than a place of ignorance.
Fantastic. That sounds like something really good. Have you had your AGM, or you're having your AGM soon, or was that last week you had your AGM?
Yes, so we did both. Yeah. We did both together.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Brilliant. Freddie, if people want to contact you after the show, where's the best place for them to find you? We want to direct people to the most convenient place.
I have been mostly using LinkedIn to do the signposting, so I would encourage people to connect with me, and then we can go from there. And of course, in return, what I want to do is to continue to signpost what I know to everybody else. And Pauline, you know what I'm talking about, right? Because that is what I've done for you too. And this is how, if everybody sort of does the most, you know, if you look at the dashboard, right, there are 10 dots. If the dot that we're doing immediately is to help to signpost what we know, that is really a good place to start.
Yeah,
I've shared your LinkedIn link in the description of the YouTube program, and also that's it showing just briefly on the screen, so that you know what it looks like. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Freddie. So we have a few stories we've picked up along the way just to kind of comment on as well. So please remain with us if you wish, and we'll just have a quick chat. But please feel free to contribute as we chat about these various things. Let me see if I can just get to the right page on my screen. Okay, so we pick up other YouTube talks about digital divide. Actually, this was one, and this was one called Tech Talk with Amit and Rinat on YouTube. I don't know if we can play a few seconds of that, Sweyn, or
we can give it a go.
Yeah, see if it comes out okay.
Where Amit and we talk about various technology related topics. This week we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, well, as usual, but today's topic is a little bit different, and I think the audience is going to get quite intrigued with this topic. It's what we're calling digital divide, and this is a topic which looks into the division that is occurring in terms of accessibility of digital products in terms.
So that just gives you a flavor of the beginning of their program there.
Yeah, yes. So that's over 38 minutes long. So one worth having a look at for people who like the programming that we do here. So thank you for that, Sweyn. The next one was from the RCT, which I think is Rhonda Conn Taff. And this is called the Get RCT Online Partnership. And they're giving top tips on digital inclusion. And it was set up by Digital Communities Wales to bring together local partners and groups interested in championing digital inclusion activities. It's a project supported by Rhonda Conn Taff, County Borough Council in South Wales, and its digital inclusion strategy, with around 20 organisations involved in the partnership, each bringing their unique insights and know-how. And they give some tips on digital inclusion, which we can all relate to. The first one is focus on building human connections, which I think Freddie has also said about socializing. Ensure your volunteers feel supported, and never underestimate the importance of community hubs. And they're places where there are community, kind of volunteers hanging out and giving people help with all the things that they need to have better lives, basically. And digital has become one of them that people are helping more with. So we can all relate to that. Okay, the next one was a tweet I picked up from Ben Chalacom, which is about information sheets that they're kind of encouraging people to think about as a way of, rather than having kind of lots of information sheets kind of hanging all around the place and getting messed up, as we know in hospitals often that happens. And the easier way is to give people a QR code to the sheet, and more people are getting more familiar with using QR codes. I think they really came into their own again, didn't they, Sweyn, during lockdown? People discovered the value of QR codes when I think people hadn't been quite sure about them before.
Yes.
So this is just a picture of showing people how they're, they can just click on the QR code to get the leaflet relevant to their particular issue.
All a QR code is a way of automatically entering a web link using your phone's camera. So for every QR code, there's a great long web link that you could type in yourself if you wanted to, but the QR code is just a very convenient way to provide a signpost to a specific website, and it's just as simple as that, really. One thing to say about to caution about QR codes is to make sure that they are actually taking you to where you're expecting to go, because there are cases of people sticking labels over QR codes and trying to take you away to some malware or other unwise website. So there's just that one thing to be careful about them when using them. But apart from that, they're brilliant. I think I've always thought they're brilliant.
Yeah, good to be reminded about that as well. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Sweyn. The next one was from the European Training in Europe, which is a good practice catalogue, and we do come across these from time to time, even though the UK is no longer in the European Union. There are still great things going on in Europe that we can benefit from. And this is a catalogue consisting of a scientific evaluation of practices and methodologies used by educators and schools in the field of vocational education during the COVID pandemic to make digital education inclusive. And material collected by the project specifically focused on practices adopted in the sector for persons with disabilities. So there's 21 practices in this list used during the pandemic, along with analysis of the practices. So I think that's something that we can people will find useful, because it's always interesting to read about how other people have used technology and what they've benefited from. And I think we'll be recommending that to our friends in AbilityNet if they haven't already heard of it. The next one is about Teams. Now, Teams is something that obviously Microsoft worked on during lockdown. And again, this is an access issue. Tips for using Teams when you're deaf or hard of hearing. So it kind of, if you scroll down, you can see the various tips, and I'll just read them out for people who might not be able to read so easily. The first tip is to turn on live captions, and this is available in Teams as in other video calling software now, but it wasn't always, so it's good to know that it's there. The second thing is to pin important people in your meetings, and again, it's something that developed. Certainly, I'm more familiar with it in Zoom, but it's obviously available in Teams as well. So that the people, when you have a screen full of people, you know who the person is to concentrate on. When there's only 3 of us here, it was easier just to share, but it's in a bigger group, it's easier to pin people.
I think the point there about pinning any sort of sign language interpreter window, I think that's a very good one. Yeah,
I think that was the thing that I missed. Thanks, Sweyn. Using the shortcut to quickly turn your camera on and off, and that's about knowing what the shortcuts are on your keyboard. And often people don't know, but the Control-Shift-0 is the Windows one there for turning your camera on and off, and that's handy to know. As is the pressing the space bar when you want to turn your microphone on and off. Oops, you've clicked on something.
As I think that's a Control-Shift-0, but
okay. Testing it out. The fourth one is to access meeting recordings and transcripts. When they're available, then people often make them available to a wider group as well, so it can be handy to have. And the final one is to pop out the meeting into a separate window. And again, this is something that kind of you learn over time, that you can have your pop-out window so you can carry on doing other work, I think, as well as your the webinar or seminar that you're on. So it's some handy tips there.
These are great tips. I think unless you're quite confident in using Teams, you might find it quite difficult to actually follow those instructions off the page. But certainly a fabulous resource for anyone who's supporting anyone who is who has hearing issues. And I think that a little bit of mentoring or technical support, as Freddie was talking about earlier, on doing these things would be really useful to people who otherwise find it difficult to hear what's going on in a call.
Absolutely.
It's a
Absolutely.
great one. I love it.
The particular one about the sign language interpreter pinning them is one that I'm certainly come back to. I think that was really valuable to know.
Yeah.
The next one we picked up was from the Digital Poverty Alliance, a tweet from the Digital Poverty Alliance about a webinar actually that I attended with We Are Digital. I don't know if you've, you and I were both on that one, Freddie, about bringing efforts together for a cohesive national approach. And again, it echoes really what Freddie has said in his slide about digital exclusion. So We Are Digital are proposing to bring people together, as well. So we'll kind of monitor and see what they're planning to do. But they list the different ways there in that tweet. I think we'll have time for one more, probably. Oh, no, we've got two more, so we'll cover two more before we close the show today. This was a really good one, I thought. Europe is stunning digital divide in one map. So be able to see across Europe what digital division looks like. This is a really useful one. I can't remember, bigthink.com. I think I just saw a tweet about it, but showing kind of the different across the different countries where more or less connection is, and some of them are surprising, and some of them aren't so surprising. So it's just good to see the whole thing as it's laid out there. As you can see, the yellow is the this was for 2020. Says data for UK was from 2020. But where there is data, it's actually a bit counterintuitive. I would always think the darker spaces are where there was more, but actually it's where there's less connection.
Yeah, yellow showing where there's a lot of connection, and going through the blues and greens and purples are showing the areas where the connection is less.
Yeah, interesting to look at Portugal as compared to Spain, and they're so close together. Interesting to look at the further west and Greece and southern Italy, where I'll be going on my interrailing, so I'm hoping to get some connection somewhere. But also, you can see where the most connection is in the Scandinavian countries, in Britain and Ireland. There isn't any data for Northern Ireland, but I'm sure Northern Ireland has the connections. Just don't have the data. And then to see the pockets of connection, the countries that are pocketed. Estonia must be there somewhere because they're one of the leaders. Are you familiar with this map, Freddie? Have you seen it before?
That'll be Estonia there.
Not this one. One thing to call out is that when we look at this, depending on what lens you're looking at, if you're looking at the macro lens, is useful. But when you start looking at the next few layers of details, right? Even in the UK, when you talk about high connectivity, I know the Deloitte's report says that a very high percentage, but it doesn't mean that that's reality for a lot of people on the ground.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll give the link on the YouTube so people can follow it up themselves and see the can drill down. And the final one is about what AI tools like ChatGPT mean for PR and communication. This is from our friend Dan Slee. And as we all know, in late 2022, ChatGPT was released, and it plugs into 20 years of internet knowledge to produce solutions to tasks given it. So Google finds you the links to help you piece together the solution. Eventually, this is what Dan says: ChatGPT finds the solution and gives you it with a bow tied around it. So he's kind of writing this from the perspective of PR professionals and saying, if you've earned your knowledge, you're living from the knowledge economy, your job is about to be turned down. What you spent years working and study for can be replicated in seconds by ChatGPT. So it's something that we're all kind of coming to grips with. Have you got a view on this, Freddie?
Yeah, a simplistic one for now, just to draw on parallels of how new things tend to happen, right? I think sometimes some things get a lot of hype at the beginning and it dies away before it comes back again. Others never get attention, but they have been doing very well for a long time. We just got to make sure that remember, like with any piece of technology, is how we use it that matters, right? The capabilities are definitely there, the opportunities are there too, but so are the dangers, right? It's how we position it. And when there is little understanding or ignorance, this is where it becomes dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we hope that having programs like this helps to address some of that ignorance and helps people to gain more knowledge. Freddie, we were delighted you were able to join us and delighted with the information that you presented. It's fascinating, and we know we'll hear much more about it in the near future. I hope everyone has a great week. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.